Okay, this flower is going to use 12 of the small petal pieces and 1 of the medium circles, the 1 5/8 inch circles, and then a center that will be just over 1 inch, and then a little button or something fancy for the center, and a piece of wire to hold all of the pieces together. The other thing you're going to need to do is have a needle and thread to go through all of the layers. So basically what we do is with each leaf petal piece that we have here, this is going to be the base, this is going to be the platform that we build the petals on top of. So we're going to push this through here, and because the center of the flower is going to cover this, all the work that we do on this part here is going to be covered, so you don't have to worry about your knots showing up or anything like that. So you're just going to want to put a stitch through and then pick up another piece, fold the leaf petal, fold the petal in half and make it so that they touch. Now I've started with 12 here, and I think that will be just right to hold them all in place. So you can see that I'm not working exactly in the center. I'm not working at the very tip of the petal. Another way to make really cute flowers is to work with them to hold down the round end and let the pointed tip form like a dahlia of sorts. But for this purpose we're going to use the pointed tip in. If you're going to use a dahlia and you have the round tips towards the center, you're going to have them overlap, which makes the center a little lumpier, which means you'll just have to use a bigger button to cover it up. So just do 1 stitch down and 1 stitch back and cinch it in place, pick up your next one, and then get that going right there so they sort of are all touching in the middle. And then hope that your needle thread doesn't bunch up into a knot. And then fold another one. And of course, if you're going to use the bigger petals, then you'll want to use a bigger support circle underneath, or a bigger centerpiece, whatever works. So, and you would probably be better suited to use a thread that actually blends in with the petal color. I'm using white so that you can see where my stitches are, and you'll be able to see the stitches on the back as well, little tiny dots of stitches coming on the back, but they won't be visible because they'll be in the bouquet, held in place with all kinds of things. So anyway, you just work your way around, cinching the centers in. Try not to get your petals in the way, which is going to be tricky because now you're pulling your thread through and across the other petals. Having trouble with that one. Okay. So as you do that, you can hear my dogs shaking in the background, because that's what they like to do. They like to shake and prance their little tippy toes around the kitchen while I'm working. And I think we might actually only have room for 10 in this size flower. So all the center should come towards the middle and make sort of a cute little pucker of tips. Yep, I think this one's going to just take 10. So if you make a bigger flower, then it might take 12 petals, but this one is going to take 10, which is a nice even number. So can stitch this down and then back up, and then now what you're going to do, since we've just come back to our first one, we're going to sink another piece of thread through there to really reinforce the connection between one petal to the next. So we'll come back up close to where I just put that stitch. And I'm going to put my needle underneath that piece of thread and loop the thread around the needle and tie a nice knot. And then I'm going to go through the fabric and do it one more time. I always like to reinforce my knots twice. So that's that. And you use a nice little pair of scissors to snip it. And then we're going to have the center, which will go right in the middle like this. And then the button will go inside of that. Now you can sew this center piece down on top of that flower if you would like to, or you can just have it be in place by the button. Now I'm just going to have this one in place by the button just for the sake of making this video a little shorter. So you can see the back is just this little green platform where you have a little circle of stitches that are just sort of dotting around the outside. So we're going to use a darning needle again to poke a hole through all the layers once you have it centered. You have everything centered. So once you have it all centered, you're going to use the needle and you're just going to poke right through, not into your hand, but through all the layers of felt. This is going to be even more difficult because you're going through weird folded tips of the petals. So once you have the hole all the way through, you're going to thread your wire, which is again another 4-inch piece of floral wire, and then you're going to thread it through this, because this button is the kind that has a hole in the bottom. So instead of having 2 little holes in the top or 4 little holes in the top, this just has 1 hole in the bottom. So this button is not going to lay flat on this flower. So I'm just going to sort of thread it there and kind of keep it out of the way. And then just a little tiny scoot over, you just push through all the layers again and are very careful not to poke yourself and wiggle it back and forth. Oh, my button just fell off. So, sorry, so slide that button back on there. Bend the wire and feed it through the hole you just made. So a darning needle is very helpful for these. I tried to feed the wire through by itself and it was just impossible to get it to go through. So if you turn it over, then you can twist the wire against itself very tight and create a nice twisted base, and you have a little flower. And you can do bigger centers if you want. If your stitches are really big and it looks like they're not going to be covered, then just use a bigger circle in the center. No one will ever notice. So there we have the end of the typical 3-dimensional petaled flower. So this one's really cute, and you can see from underneath it's got a nice platform and a little stem that you can use to create a beautiful bouquet.